Today I'm doing a long overdue collection update and talking about my new 4K and Blu-ray pickups over the last couple months. So let's rock this. Hey everyone, welcome back. I'm Fuzz. So I was thinking about it and I realized I haven't posted any kind of collection update video since I launched my channel a couple months ago. So I'm feeling like I'm a little bit overdue here. I did post a Vinegar Syndrome new pickups video when I first launched the channel, but aside from that, I haven't discussed any of my non-Vinegar Syndrome pickups over the last couple months. So that's what I'm going to do today. I've got about 14 titles here that I've accumulated since the end of March or so, and that's probably how I'm going to usually do these collection update videos. I'll post them every couple months or so. I'm not the kind of guy who will be posting updates to the collection every week or even every month. Usually I'll wait until I've accumulated quite a few titles before I feel like it's worth doing a video to talk about them, right? It really just depends on the month and what I purchased during that month. Some months I just don't purchase as much as other months. Sometimes I go for weeks without buying anything, and then other times I'll pick up quite a few things within a short period of time. So it really just depends. But yeah, I'll probably be doing these every couple months or so. So the first group of titles that I want to talk about here would, I think, fall under the category of 80s Teensploitation or Teen Exploitation films. Now, when I say that, I'm not talking about necessarily the John Hughes variety, although I do love John Hughes films like Pretty in Pink and 16 Candles and Breakfast Club. Those films are a little bit lighter in tone. They take more of like a slice of life kind of approach. They almost have kind of a romantic comedy kind of vibe associated with them. But that's not the kind of film I'm talking about here. When I say Teensploitation, I'm talking about films that are a little darker, they're more firmly R-rated, they're edgier, a little more brutal, and just more serious in tone overall. There's usually a bully involved or a strong bullying element, one or more bullying individuals. And of course, if you have bullying, you're going to have a victim or a set of victims that eventually reach their boiling point, get fed up and fight back or get revenge or whatnot. So I've really been digging these kind of 80s Teensploitation films lately. And interestingly enough, these three that I picked up, they were all blind buys for me, which is kind of weird for me because I was actually a teenager when these films came out in the 80s, but for whatever reason, they were just never on my radar. So I just never knew about these movies until just like the last year or so. I think I found out about them from like Garrett over at Born to Be Rad and the Rad Pack and whatever. They talk about these movies quite a bit. But they were new to me and I really enjoyed them. The first such film would be Class of 1984. This is a Scream Factory release. It's a 1982 film. This is a lot of fun, and it probably leans a little bit more horror, as evidenced by the fact that it was put out by Scream Factory. It's a little bit more horror than the other two choices I'm going to talk about, but this was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. You get an early performance from Michael J. Fox in this. It's a fairly small role, but not an insignificant role. You also get Roddy McDowall in this, and then the lead is Perry King. He's a music teacher who becomes a victim, or becomes one of the primary victims, and what happens next is just a lot of fun. So if you've never seen this, I'd recommend it. I had a lot of fun with it, and I think if you're into 80s Teensploitation, you probably will too. Next up was The New Kids, directed by Sean Cunningham of Friday the 13th fame. This has a great cast. You got Lori Loughlin in here. You got James Spader as the bad guy, Eric Stoltz in there, and even the Dick Slinger himself, Tom Atkins, makes an appearance. So one thing I like about this, this is a Mill Creek release. They've got these retro VHS style slipcovers that I really dig. And you get the alternate art right there on the case as well. But I had a lot of fun with this film, and if you're into 80s teen exploitation, definitely another one you should check out. And the last one that I got in the 80s Teensploitation realm would be Tough Turf. I have heard so much about this from other people. I loved it. I had a blast with it. I can't believe that, I'm just now seeing it at my age, because this would have been right up my alley during the 80s. But again, I didn't know about it. So Another good cast on this one. Let's see, who do we have? We got James Spader, of course, early Robert Downey Jr. performance, and Kim Richards in this. So, yeah, I had a lot of fun with this film. This was probably, of the three I've shown you, this one was probably my favorite. I really enjoyed this. So check it out if you haven't. Okay, now I'm going to be moving into some Kino Lorber titles that I picked up. Well, actually, Tough Turf was also a Kino Lorber release, by the way. So if you're a Kino fan, that came from them. I got the next one up, Kino Lorber's Terminal Invasion. Now, I'll be honest, this one wasn't as good as I was hoping. This is a pretty cheesy movie. Really low budget, just bad CGI effects, early 2000s CGI. I bought this because it has Bruce Campbell in it and because it's directed by Sean Cunningham again, which I had just watched The New Kids, so I figured I was in the mood for some more Sean Cunningham. This was a total impulse buy for me. I'll admit, if I had to do it again, I'm not sure that I would pick this one up. It didn't work out as well as I'd hoped. Yeah, I may go back and watch it again in 10 years or something. But so yeah, Terminal Invasion. I got to be honest, I probably wouldn't recommend this one unless you're just like a big Sean Cunningham fan, big Bruce Campbell fan. You want to kind of complete the collection, then then it might be worth picking up. One thing I did like, though, is that it came with a slipcover, and I think that's part of why I bought it when I did. I saw the slipcover and wanted to make sure I got one, so I took a total chance on this movie, and it was one of the rare times where it didn't quite work out as well as I'd hoped. So, this one I just got yesterday. This is Black Moon Rising. Again, also Kino. This has Tommy Lee Jones and Linda Hamilton and Robert Vaughn. This, unlike Terminal Invasion, this actually was a really good movie. I just watched it last night and I had a blast with it. Great action film that also has heist flick elements to it. Although I wouldn't necessarily call it a straight up heist flick. There's other stuff in there too. But if you're a fan of heist flicks, you'll probably dig this film. Just a lot of fun all the way around. It's nonstop action. It kept me engaged the whole way. So if you've never seen Black Moon Rising, yeah, check it out. By the way, if you haven't figured it out yet, these are all Blu-rays I've been showing you so far. No 4Ks yet. I will get to the 4K discs here in a minute. But moving on, next up, I've been on a big Chuck Norris kick lately, and I am loving these slipcovers that Kino Lorber is putting out with these Chuck Norris films. So I had to pick a few of those up. Good Guys Wear Black. Now, this is the only one of my new releases here that I haven't had a chance to watch yet. This also just arrived yesterday for me, so I'm definitely going to check that out, probably tonight. But yeah, getting my Chuck on here. Moving on, more Chuck Norris, A Force of One. Again, I'm loving the Kino Lorber slipcovers, so I had to pick this up. So yeah, this another good one. I enjoyed this one. I mean, it was decent. I mean, it's nothing to write home about. Didn't blow my mind or anything. But for Chuck Norris fare, it was good stuff. It worked for me, and it served my Chuck Norris need at the time. So yeah, Force of One. This one was a little bit weirder. The Octagon. I love the slipcover on this. I love the art. But what I didn't like about this movie, I mean, the movie would have been fine except for one thing. There's this weird, like, whispering Chuck Norris narration going on throughout the entire film, where anytime he thinks something, I'm not talking about spoken dialogue that he's actually supposed to say, I'm talking about the character's thoughts. He does this weird whispering narration to narrate what he's thinking in the moment, and it gets really distracting, and it even took me out of the film quite a bit. So it's pretty cheesy. So I will say, if you were looking for a good Chuck Norris film, this probably wouldn't be my first recommendation. I've enjoyed pretty much every other Chuck Norris film I've watched more than this one. So, but I mean, it wasn't horrible, but that whispering narration is really, really distracting. So yeah, that's it. But I got those 3 Chuck Norris films to bulk up my Chuck collection. All right, moving on here. That's about it for the Kino Lorber titles. I did pick up one Arrow release, Black Sunday. This film was a blast as well. I enjoyed this film. There's this whole domestic terrorist plot here that involves taking out about 80,000 people at a football game. So yeah, it gets pretty intense. Bruce Dern is in this. He does a great job, as usual, playing a total loon and totally unhinged guy. And you got Robert Shaw in here as well, playing an Israeli agent who's working to try and stop this wacko from carrying out his deathly plan. It's just a really great 70s disaster terrorist type thriller, directed by John Frankenheimer of Manchurian Candidate fame. So yeah, if you've never seen this film, definitely check it out. It's worth the time. Okay, that about wraps it up for the Blu-rays. Moving on next to 4K. My first 4K pickup was Red Eye, Wes Craven. This is a great film. Now, if you're a Wes Craven fan, but for whatever reason you've never seen this one, keep in mind it is not a horror film. It is a very different kind of film for Wes Craven, a suspenseful thriller. Not at all horror in my view. But it's got a great plot, great acting from Cillian Murphy, Rachel McAdams, Brian Cox. So yeah, and the 4K transfer looks great on this. I believe that this film had never even been out on Blu-ray prior to this. It was only available on DVD. So it was great to see, Paramount give this film the 4K treatment. One thing I like about these Paramount Presents releases is, well, first of all, you get a clear Blu-ray case, a little bit different than the standard Blu-ray fare, but more importantly, you get a really cool slipcover that kind of has almost like a foily metallic sheen to it. But the really cool thing about these is they have these gatefold slipcovers where if you tilt them sideways and open them up, you actually get the original artwork, original poster for the film. I think that's kind of a cool touch. You don't see too many companies putting out slipcovers like this gatefold slipcover. So I think that's something that's unique to Paramount Presents, which, from what I understand, I think this is like they're attempting to be more boutique-y, right? This is like their boutique line, and so they give it a little extra flair. They know collectors are going to eat this kind of stuff up, right? So I think that's what they're trying to do, is appeal more to the boutique type collector. But it's a great film. If you've never seen it, I definitely recommend it. A lot of fun. Next up on 4K, I picked up The Italian Job from 2003, the remake. Great upgrade from the previous 2006 Blu-ray. That Blu-ray didn't look that great. And they definitely stepped up the game a bit on this one. Is this Paramount? Yeah, this is Paramount. So Paramount actually stepped up their game a little bit on this, and it definitely looks a lot better than the old Blu-ray. You definitely notice a difference in the upgrade. So uptick in detail, everything just pops more, the colors look great. So if you've never seen this, definitely check it out. And if you have seen it, but we're wondering about the 4K, I can vouch for the 4K restoration on this. It really does look good. So yeah, The Italian Job. I also picked up Deep Impact, also from Paramount. Now this isn't a Paramount Presents, you just get a standard slipcover for this, no gatefold slipcover. But this is a nostalgic movie for me, right? This is one of those movies I used to watch all the time in the 90s and early 2000s, when it was replaying on cable or whatnot. Great cast here. You got Robert Duvall, you got Morgan Freeman, Téa Leoni, an early performance by Elijah Wood. So just a great disaster film in general. This came out within a few months of Armageddon back in the 90s, and this one is a little bit different than Armageddon. I think it actually takes it's almost more of a drama. The tone is a little bit more serious, not quite as action-packed as Armageddon, but the drama element actually works really well, and you do get to see the comet or asteroid hit and smack into the Earth, and that's great stuff. The CGI probably doesn't hold up quite as well as we would hope, but that's to be expected from a late 90s film like this. We know the CGI was not always going to translate well to 4K. It's not too bad here, though. It looks a little soft, but it's not as bad as other releases that we've seen, like The Core. So, but great film. If you've never seen Deep Impact and you like disaster films, check it out. I also picked up The Exorcist 3 on 4K. From Scream Factory. Now, this is going to probably blow some of you away. I'd never seen this film before. This was a blind buy for me, which, what can I say? I was a late bloomer to the horror genre, right? So this one was just never on my radar. But everybody has said such stellar things about this one, talking about what a great sequel it is, how it's one of the better horror sequels ever made. And I got to agree. When I watched it for the first time a few weeks back, or whenever it was I watched it, I really enjoyed it. It's a really spooky film, and you get great performances by Brad Dourif and, of course, George C. Scott. So yeah, I can't compare it to earlier restorations or earlier versions of this on home media because I've never owned it before. But the 4K did look good. It looked like I expected it to look, yeah, it was just a great release all the way around. So Exorcist 3 on 4K, pretty awesome stuff. And the last one I picked up, I got a decent deal on it. I think it was probably only 30 bucks or so, and that is the full box set, the limited edition box set of The Hills Have Eyes, another Wes Craven film on 4K. Yeah, I know it was only shot in 16 millimeter and there was only so much they were going to be able to do with the 4K, but the price was such a decent price, 30 bucks. Normally these kind of box sets go for like 50, 60 bucks at full price or whatever. So when I saw it for about 30 bucks, I thought, that's probably a deal I should take advantage of. And I didn't have it in my collection. I needed to get my Wes Craven bulked up a little bit more. And I love this film. I'm a big Dee Wallace fan, so this certainly was able to add this to my Dee Wallace collection. But good film, and I'm glad I picked it up. So that about wraps it up. Those are all my new pickups over the last couple months, from about the end of March to the end of May. I'll be doing another collection update video in a couple months. If you like the content here, please do me a favor and subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell, and don't forget to like the videos as well. I really appreciate your support. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you next time.